my money? You gonna give me my money? Where's my money, man?
So we live in a time where financial independence, investing and owning multiple streams of income has become the in or the cool thing to talk about these days, right? On one end, you have your crypto investors who are experiencing 20, 50, 100 and sometimes even up to 200% returns within a span of a few months. And on the other hand, you have your S&P investors experiencing new high almost every other day. Making money from investing seems to be such an easy thing to do these days, to a point where everybody is trying to jump into it, hoping to invest in the next Bitcoin or the next Amazon to 10 times their investments.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah!
In today's video, I want to talk about 3 situations of which if you can relate to either of these situations, you should not invest, simply because you are not ready for the risk that comes along with the investments. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 1, you do not have a basic understanding of investing concepts. Now, the first situation where you should not invest is if you don't have the basic understanding of simple investments concepts like what is the difference between a stock and a bond? What are funds? What is the difference between ETF and mutual funds? What is the difference in behavior and exposure between a different sector, industry, country and regional funds? What is the difference between capital gains and dividends? What is volatility and what is the expected volatility of a given investment instrument? Now the list goes on, right? But you get the point. If you don't even have a basic understanding of these investment concepts, you should not invest, as clearly do not know what you are getting yourself into. Now I don't care if you're looking to invest in S&P, SDI or blue chip companies like your SIA, REITs or even robo-advisors. If you invest without knowing what you're getting yourself into, it is almost certain that you will fall prey into common investment biases that will cause you to perform poorly simply because you have no idea what you are doing with your investments, right?
Where's my money? You gonna give me my money? Where's my money, man?
Investing without having a clear understanding of the basic concepts is like trying to swim across an Olympic-sized pool without knowing how to swim. Chances are is that you're going to float and struggle for a bit and then drown and die, right? So please, at least take some time to just Google or read up on the basic of investing before you even consider investing your own hard-earned money into the markets. It doesn't make sense for you to risk years of your savings into any form of investments when you don't even bother to spend a few days learning the basics of investing, right? If you attempt to play stupid games, don't be shocked when you win stupid prizes. Moving on. Number 2, you have less than 5 years to invest. The second situation where you should not invest is when you don't even have at least 5 years to invest. And here's why. Now, the first rule of investing is to not lose any money, right? Based on market history, the times where you have a very high probability of which your investments will lose money is during times of a financial crisis or a recession. Meaning to say that if you want your investments to have a high probability to at least break even and not suffer from any form of investment losses regardless of the type of market and economic condition, you need to know how your investments will behave in times of a financial crisis and recessions, right? Once you know how your investments will behave in the worst possible situations, you can then invest accordingly in preparation of such situations. So that if shit happens, you are prepared to sit through the storm and wait out the recovery so that you will not suffer from any form of investment losses after your investment duration. Make sense? Now, while I can't speak for individual stocks or instruments, what we can do is to study how the broad market, mainly the US market as represented by the S&P 500, had performed in previous financial crises and recessions. Now assume that today you are the worst and most unlucky investor that ever walked the earth. Every time you invest, the entire market will crash the very next day. Now based on all the past major financial crises, recessions and market crash from 1926 to 2019, what you will realize is that if you were to invest today and the market crashed tomorrow, on average, you will need about 5 years to break even on your investment losses. Sure, there are exceptions like the dot-com crash and the 1929 Great Depression, but on average, the chances of you suffering from a loss after a major financial crisis, after the 5th year of remaining invested, is extremely low, as most of the time, the market will have recovered by then. Now, this is also the reason why if you don't have at least 5 years to invest, you should not even consider investing in the very first place, as you will have a very hard time sticking to the first rule of investing, which is to not lose any money, right? And so I often tell my clients, take care of the downside risk and the upside return will take care of itself if you're investing in the right stuff and broadly diversified, regardless of the ups and downs that you may experience along the way. Moving on. Number 3, you are investing for things like property and marriage. The third situation where you should not invest is if you are investing for short-term things like settling down and financing for your marriage and your property, right? Riding on to my previous point of you should not invest if you have less than 5 years of investment horizon, if you are investing for things like settling down, chances are is that you have less than 5 years to invest. And if that's the case, you should stay away from the markets, alright? Even if you do intend to settle down, or rather you do not intend to settle down within the next 5 years, you should still not invest the funds needed for settling down, because if a few years down the road, shit happens and the market collapses due to a recession or a financial crisis, what are you going to do? Right? Are you going to delay your marriage plans? Are you going to, delay your renovation plans? How are you going to pay for things when the time comes and the market is not performing up to your expectations? Unless you are prepared to look into your partner's eyes and tell him or her that the marriage is not happening until the market recovers, you should not invest and take on unnecessary risk for things that are not negotiable, and things like settling down, marriage, and property are often things that are not negotiable, right? Your future investment returns can wait, your marriage and your property cannot. Moving on. So there you have it, right? These are the 3 situations of which if you're in either one of them, you should stay away from investing regardless of how lucrative or how enticing it may seem to be. To recap, the first is if you don't have a clear understanding of the basic investment concepts. The second is if you don't have at least 5 years to invest. And the third is if you're investing to finance for non-negotiable things like to settle down, marriage, and property. While the markets would generally trend upwards in the long run, that does not apply to you if you do not even have that long run to capitalize on the upwards trend. Because in the short run, chances are is that the markets will go up and down like a roller coaster. So please, take into consideration the downside risk that comes along with investing, especially when you're investing in the short term. And please try not to be enticed by the get rich quick stories you see online these days. You are better than this, right? Do not jump into the current trend of investing without knowing what you're getting yourself into. Because if you play stupid games, don't be shocked when you win stupid prizes. So that's all I have for this video today. If you found my content useful, please do drop me a like and subscribe to this channel to stay updated with my weekly upload. Do let me know in the comment section if you agree or disagree with my above points, and also what would you like me to voice my opinion on next. If you'd like to find out more about how you can leverage on my experiences and benefit from my financial planning services, you can find out more on my website or reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. So all the links will be in the description below. Stay safe and I hope to hear from you soon.